Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are revising our Vegeta. So this is our version 2, or continuing on our version 2s from the earlier videos that we did a couple of weeks ago, or at least over the last few weeks, where we've been kind of putting out deck profiles for set 2. I think for sure there's been some mistakes made, I will say that. There's been some cards that have been overlooked, and now that I've actually sat and properly looked through each and every color. Like I did do it before, but just I think I've kind of taken my time a lot more recently when it's come to this. One of the comments on the Vegeta deck profile was that there was a specific one cost or a couple of one costs that we were missing. A package that we really should have been running as well. And the more I've kind of thought about it, the more it makes sense. So yeah, so we've completely revised the deck quite a bit, and it's now more based on control for sure. I think in this Topku meta you have to look to extending your life just by removing your opponent's board, and you don't want to awaken too fast. Obviously, I know that Vegeta's 35k is very tempting, but trust me, it will get you into trouble a lot more if you try to go into it early. So that's why I've kind of avoided the self-awakeners, in the sense of I still run self-awakeners in the deck, but honestly they are optional, so a lot of the times I'm just going to choose not to take the life. But we'll go through the profile, and again, there was a deck that topped in the top 16 of the American tournament, which has kind of, you know, generated some what you call it? Inspiration. That's the word we're looking for. It's generated some inspiration on, you know, like ratios and stuff. The deck is definitely slightly different. It's more based on my playstyle rather than what I'd assumed that player's playstyle was. So yeah, so we have made some changes for sure, but again, a lot of it will look quite similar. And I do think that the blue list that you're running is going to have to be a very control heavy list if you have any chance of surviving the top Ku onslaught. So, but we'll start off. We'll just go through it. So we run 4 of the 1-drop trunks. It's just a draw. It's just a cantrip. That's pretty much the only reason it's there. It is loopable off Pilaf. It is loopable off the Gotenks as well if we get down to that route. But again, not the best targets for either. Run 3 of the new Goten. This card completely slipped under the radar for me. This is a snapped card. He's a 10k combo for 1, which is very good, but on play we choose one of our opponent's battle cards with a cost of 2 or less and return it to its owner's hand. So for 1 energy, we can just pop hits back into our opponent's hand. There's a lot of good 2-drops, you know, if you're playing against Yellow Frieza, for example. You know, we can pop back that, either the Zarbon or the King Cold, not King Cold, the second form Frieza, sorry. So it gives us ways to just stop our opponent building a board and activating multiple Self-Awakeners on the same turn. So I love Goten. I think it's such a strong card for that. And then 4 Zamasus for pretty much the same reason. He's a way of just removing our opponent's cantrips. It's very, very strong. There's no reason not to run this. Plus, it's a 10k combo. I do think that Zamasu is one of the best removal pieces that Blue has, just for getting rid of those pesky 1-drops. It's still so good. He's going to be great into the red match because we can just forcefully bottom deck our opponent's Roshes, meaning that if they establish a Roshi again, it's likely going to be the only life they take that turn. Otherwise, they'll just go into their hits or the Cauliflowers or things like that. So yeah, I love them for this reason. Pilaf, it's Pilaf, look man, come on. We're never dropping this. It's going to be so difficult for, I feel, for Blue to power trip this card or power creep this card. I think that it's going to be so difficult for them to print a card that people are going to want to run over it. The only way that happens is if like Saiyans or Namekians or Aliens or Friezas or whatever, the only way that Pilaf is going to stop being useful is if Earthlings stop being useful. And in set 2 that is not the case, so I don't see that happening anytime soon for sure. Even in set 3, unless there's a complete overhaul to essentially their design, because in their design so far they've just kind of stuck to what they know. So they've kind of stuck with, alright, well last set we released, you know, Saiyans and Earthlings, we'll just kind of follow the same suit, and it's kind of what they did. But unless they do a complete overhaul and release, for example, I don't even know, like let's say a blue Sin Shenron, for example, not going to happen, but if they did, that entire package is likely going to be, you know, Shadow Dragons. There's going to be very few of it will be, you know, playable or splashable from the Earthling side of things, you know, like we have here. So for sure, I think that Pilaf's going to be around for a while, so get used to seeing this as a 4 of in most decks for a good while. This is the cantrip, or not the cantrip, sorry, this is the 1-drop that I missed off, right? I honestly didn't see that there was a 1-drop Vegeta from the next set. I knew that there was a 1-drop Goku. I just automatically assumed that was the only 1-drop vanilla that they added. I was wrong. This card is really, really good for multiple reasons. The main reason is the 1-drop Bulma. So with Bulma, if we don't boost our leader, we can boost this card. Meaning for 2 energy, all in, we can make this Vegeta 35k. And our leader would also be 35k on its own. So we don't need to buff the leader in that instance. So this card is insanely good for that amount of pressure. I can't believe I missed it the first time round. I'm sorry, I don't have the comments up at the minute, but whoever it was that mentioned this 1-drop Vegeta, good pickup. I did not spot this. Very, very good pickup. And then here's the Bulma. So this is if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, choose up to one of your Vegeta cards and it gains plus 10k power. So we can choose this, we can choose a leader, we can choose another Vegeta, which we'll get to later on. This card is insane. I absolutely love this card. I want this at 4. For the purposes of deck space, I don't know what I would cut. If I was going to cut anything, it would probably be a 1-drop Trunks, just because it's a 5k. And we have a lot of 1-drops anyway, you know, between these 3. So if we run 3, 3, 4, I have no doubt we'll see one of them on turn 1. So there is the possibility that we cut one of the Trunkses for a 4th Bulma. Testing will show me whether or not that's needed, because I think that Bulma's only useful up until the later turns, so you don't really want to see it that early. But we'll see. And then 3 Trunks and 3 Gotens. These are just, again, depending on the match we're playing, we might need to self-awaken or we might want to self-awaken. I'm looking at this purely as a Topku heavy perspective. I am never taking my own life against Topku. It's just not going to happen. I am not... The crit caulifla is an issue. It's not that big of an issue. We run that many 10k combos in this deck that I will out-combo that almost every turn as long as they don't put anything on it. And if our opponent puts stuff on it, go ahead. Like, I don't know. If I have something on the board, I'll combo that off plus a card in hand. Like, it's very unlikely I'm going to take that crit damage. But yeah, I just don't see any reason to take the cards from your life unless we absolutely have to. Topku's job is to put your life from 8 to 0. That's their job. They don't burn. They don't do anything else. They are purely there to just take your life from 8 to 0 unless they run the secret rare. Of course, they burn in that instance. But yeah, I just don't see the reason why I would help my opponent get there. So for that reason, and plus blue wants to stay at that 7-8 card hand. So, you know, us taking our own life and increasing our hand size is kind of counterproductive. So yeah, so those are the reasons. And plus, this is a 25k when we've got 7 cards in hand. This is a 15k. It's not as great, but we can at least bounce our opponent's cards, which lends into the control strategy. So, you know, absolutely, these 2 cards are necessary. I run 4 Vegetos. So I was struggling with cutting the Trunks. Trunks for me is still very, very useful. The only issue is that I think with Trunks, he doesn't give you all that much, and he's a 20k, so he's very killable. This card is much easier to defend. And us reducing, you know, as part of the permanent, depending on if they kill that in a turn, you know, it's very easy to do in red. They can neg 25k in one turn, no problem, from like turn 3 onwards. It's not going to be that big of an issue for them. Maybe turn 4, I would say, is where it's going to be really easy for them. But if we even get the value of this for a turn, the permanent to reduce the battle cards by 1, meaning that our Zamasu's bottom deck 2s, our Goten's bounce 3 costs, this bounce a 3 cost. Like, we have so many ways of removing our opponent's cards. Yeah, I can't ignore this card. This has to be a 4 for sure, I think. I don't think I would run any less than that. And I think while Trunks, yes, removes up to a cost of 5, again, I'm looking at this as a purely Topku heavy meta, and they don't run many 5 costs, or any. So everything that they'll run will be 4 or less, meaning that every piece of removal we have should get into their energy specific costs. So I think Vegeta's perfectly fine. And of course, he bottom decks a 2 or less himself as well, which is very good. I run 2 Gotenks, the same person I think it was, or it might have been someone else. I apologise again. I should have actually looked at the comments before I created this video, but Gotenks is just needed, mainly because we run so many 10Ks. You know, this Goten, these 2, we still have this as the option if we need it, but honestly, if by choice, I'm never adding this back to hand, realistically. Again, he's a 25k, just puts out a bit of pressure. Easy to defend unless our opponent can just minus it to death, which, like I said, from turn 4 onwards is probably not going to be an issue for them. But again, he's there. Excuse me. He might not get played in every match, but he's there for that reason. 3 5-cost Vegetas. he gets rid of a 4 or less and he's a double striker. He's our best game finisher, in all honesty, besides our leader, I suppose. 2 secret rares, again, it gets rid of a 5 or less. If we have a Vegeta on board, we can get rid of a 6 or less. Again, not sure how relevant that'll be this format anyway. But he is a dual attacker, which is always nice, so being able to remove a card, and then even if we just spend that turn clearing our opponent's board, that's fine by me. I don't mind that. You know, between our leader being a 35k, between him being a dual attack 30k, we should be able to clear any board in the game, realistically, if we play it right. Super combos, 4 Videls. In my last Vegeta video, I left out super combos because apparently they're not needed, because I'm an idiot. Again, run whatever super you want, it doesn't matter. I run Videl just because, why not? And then, this one was interesting for me. I looked at the ratios of extra cards, because this is where I was struggling. I looked at the ratio of extra cards from the list that topped in America, and he runs, I'm just going to show you them because it's the exact same ratios that he runs. I want Gallic Gun at 4. I can't ignore how good this card is in Vegeta. I don't know. There might be a world where I just cut Final Hope entirely and just run 4-3. I don't know what I would cut in this list for this, and I don't want to run too many extra cards, so I wouldn't want to cut any of the battle card package. So if anything, I would need to... The only card, I think, because you need 3 Sinister Sickle for sure, the only card that's cuttable for the 4th Gallic Gun for me is the Final Hope Slash, but Final Hope Slash is still very good. Again, it lends into the strategy of control where we can remove a 2 or less, return it to the owner's hand, and again, if we have Vegito, we're removing a 3 or less. Like, this card lends into so many good plays against red, specifically. So I still think running it at 1 is fine. I love Gallic Gun at 4, I always have, so I don't know, maybe it's just me being a bit biased towards the card, so we'll test it, we'll see how it goes, and if it doesn't run properly, you know, we'll up it to 4 to try and increase its consistency a little bit, and then see how the deck feels at that point. But for those of you that don't know, Sinister Sickle is the best card for blue this set, more or less. Active main, we choose 2 of our opponent's battle cards at the cost of 4 or less and bottom deck them. Bottom deck them is the key word. Bottom decking is huge. It means that they are not going back to hand for combo power, and they are not going back to hand to be played a turn later. This card is nuts. For 3 energy, you absolutely need this. It's why blue's turns, most likely, a lot of the time are not going to be us attacking into their board. We're going to look to remove them through effects and just keep pressuring our opponent's life. So, yeah, the Sinister Sickle is an absolutely dumb card for that reason. It's so good. It was good in set 1, don't get me wrong. It's just, Topku purely, realistically, they're only playing 4 or lesses, right? They're not playing the 5-drop. They're not going to play anything that's higher than a 4, realistically. So that means that everything is targetable through Sinister Sickle in that deck. Again, depending on how quick they are and how, you know, if they've seen the nuts, it might not be so easy for Vegeta to take the deck down, but for sure it's the best way. Sinister Sickle is the best way to control that board. Plus, you know, being able to field the battle cards, you know, if we don't have 4 energy, we Sinister Sickle, we could even play Bulma, for example, just buff our leader, or if we have a 1-drop on board, we buff that. It's very unlikely that we're going to have any board against red, let's be serious. Even that, or we can, you know, tap 3 and then Pilaf, add, I don't know, the Goten back to hand, it doesn't matter. And then we just swing with our leader, combo the Pilaf, there we go, 45k, just like that. And then we just keep recurring these cards and just keep recurring the pressure, that's all it's about. And yeah, I think the blue's is in a very unique position to be able to handle Topku. I just don't know how well it can handle it. I don't know, we might be limited on our board control in the sense of we can keep removing turn by turn, but if they can keep establishing turn by turn the same size of board, we're going to struggle to keep up with them tempo-wise. We might actually win it in the long run because of our hand size, depends on how well we can defend and use our Gallic Guns effectively and keep energy open, and, you know, it's all going to come down to timing, more or less, I think, against Topku. But yeah, and Vegeta, I think, handles any deck right now. I think it handles any colour, any deck. I think Topku's going to be its only big challenge. And while I think that Topku still holds the edge slightly, this gives you a great fighting chance. This definitely gives you a great fighting chance. So yesterday's video, I mentioned that I think that Topku, it's just going to be a very Topku heavy meta, and it's like if you don't play that deck, you lose kind of thing. I think one of the only decks that will stand up to it in the format will be Vegeta. for sure. I will stand by that. I think it's a really, really strong deck. It's got great removal, great board presence, and we can, you know, put out some really high damage attackers as well. So for sure, I think that this is a really, really solid list. Whoever it was that topped in that event, massive congratulations to you, buddy. That was a huge, huge showing. I am so happy that a Vegeta made that top cut, because I've said it from set one, I think Vegeta is snapped. I just think that people didn't know how to play the leader properly, and that included myself, by the way. I will put my hands up there and say I don't know how to play this leader properly, at least in set one. But absolutely, set two, the buffs and the cards that Blue got in set two, and definitely Vegeta for that matter with this Bulma, this is going to be so difficult to break down. I think that Trunks also, while I don't think that Trunks is going to have the same effect. Sorry, apologies if you hear my dog kicking off in the background, she's barking. But I don't think that Trunks is going to have the same efficiency, just because he himself is only a 20k leader, whereas our leader becomes a 35k. Yes, he's 20k on our opponent's turn, which both of them are, which is fine, but us being able to fire out a 35k attacker every turn is really, really strong. And Trunks is, and I think that Blue inherently is going to live and die by how late that they can awaken. And Trunks, because of how good his removal is, you kind of want to awaken as early as possible, which puts you in the danger zone quite quickly. You would have to really slow play Trunks, and I think that Vegeta just slow plays better than Trunks does. And us not having access to a, you know, active main bounce a 3 or less, right? Us not having access to that's not that big of a deal because of all of the removal pieces we have in this deck. So yeah, I think that we can survive very well with Vegeta. I think that Trunks, while it is, yes, better removal for sure, I just don't know if it'll be able to stand the long run against Topku. I think it's going to cost us a lot more from hand offensively than what Vegeta would. So yeah, so that's the main reason. I do think that Vegeta for me is definitely the tier 1 deck for Blue anyway. I think Vegeta has a great matchup into most colours, and I think it also has a great matchup into Topku. I think it's going to be difficult to just survive the onslaught. If you can survive the onslaught up until like turn 6, I think you're sitting laughing. I don't think you're ever in danger. Their hand size will deplete while yours hopefully should stay roughly the same. You might drop a card here or there, but you know, if they're on 4 or 5 cards in hand and you're on 7 or 8, you're laughing. Like, all of your effects are going to go off. You're going to keep recycling cards. You're just going to go in for massive tall attacks, and they won't be able to deal with it. So yeah, so you've just got to be very smart when you try and pick apart Topku with this leader for sure. But I think it can do it. I definitely think it can do it. But guys, that's the deck list. Like I said, massive changes from the last list, and I think that this is definitely the better list for sure. Once again, thank you to everybody who commented on that video, who told me that I missed out certain cards, one being the super combo, which was an honest mistake. That was just me being an idiot. But you know, even the suggestions like running this Vegeta, running the Gotenks package, you know, things like cutting Zamasu and stuff like that, they all helped me just try to look into the deck and understand the playstyle. So this is what I wanted from the community. I wanted people to give honest opinions and feedback, and all of that. Like I said, I hope this video on Topku has sort of shown you that I listen to the feedback, and I do try to build around it. And like I said, you guys did a great job picking up on the stuff that I forgot from the initial deck profile. So again, great job everybody. And yeah, but guys, I'm going to leave you all there. We're coming up on 20 minutes now, so it's been a bit of a long video. But again, I can't thank you all enough for your support recently. It's all been amazing. The comments as well, all been very constructive. Been no flippant remarks about deck profiles and things being wrong or incorrect. It's just been genuinely nice feedback. So guys, thank you so much. And again, if you haven't already, please give us a like and a subscribe. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.